Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight, concerns mount over the extent of learning loss during the pandemic. The Public Service Minister hits back at the F&M's legal action threat over terminations. PAHO weighs in on hybrid learning for students in the new year. Are ministers traveling too much? And we've got the highlights of the Bahamas Bowl. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs, topping news tonight as educational officials prepare for the reopening of public schools for face-to-face instruction in January. Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin says there are serious concerns surrounding the thousands of students who never logged in for virtual school and those who have just been pushed through the system. Kyle Joaquin has a story.
I've not been in a room where there's been a determination, but I cannot see you pushing children through a system who are, not really, because in fact, that must be terribly frustrating for a child to go more and more into environments and where they're still trying to catch up from yesterday. So I think that the important thing is to get them back on track. I think that will be the focus.
Major concerns for education officials as they prepare for the reopening of schools with a hybrid format. Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin says decisions will have to be made regarding what to do with especially the 16 and 17-year-olds who may have been moved out of the system during what was supposed to be their graduation year.
Now, we have had a phenomenon of at least 2 graduation years, what should have been graduation years last year and this year, where children have just not been online. They've been out of school. So I think we can call them dropouts from the virtual reality and from school. And so we have to also target that category of young person, probably around 16, 17, to see how we can bring them back into the fold and try and remediate that loss, because we don't know for sure what the manifestation of this learning loss will be if we do not do our best to counter it.
She called it a crisis that thousands of children across the country simply never logged in for virtual school.
We engaged the Department of Statistics. They're doing a survey to ascertain what are the reasons children have not been online, and it's thousands. What are the reasons? Is it internet access? Is it parental support? Is it health issues? What are the reasons? We're now being told I will get the results and analysis of that on Monday. That will form the basis of how we will be able to help children who have not been able to get online or have not gone online in the last 2 years.
So when school reopens come January 11th, Hanna-Martin says the first order of business will be an assessment of each child.
We intend, once the children return to school on the 11th of January, to engage in diagnostics, to see exactly where that child is positioned in this fully virtual environment, which has been so challenging. Once we have done those diagnostics, we will get an understanding of where exactly the child is and the extent of learning loss, if any.
She said the goal is to ensure no child is left behind. Hanna-Martin said at the end of the day, it shouldn't just be the priority of the Ministry of Education, but parents and the community as well.
It might be minimal. We don't know. But we intend to ensure that no child is left behind. So far as humanly possible, we want to ensure that we look individually at each child and seek to meet the needs of that child.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Well, Foreign Affairs and Public Service Minister Fred Mitchell brushing off the Free National Movement's announcement that it is considering taking legal action over reported terminations. Mitchell said he's not concerned with what the opposition does.
So if the authority, the administrators have made a decision which is ultra-vires the law or has offended the rights of some citizen, they have a right, including the Free National Movement, to go and test that in the courts. So, cool breeze. Whatever they want to do, that they're entitled to do, let them go ahead. We are governing. That's what we're doing. We have made, in our view, no mistakes in law, nor in practice, nor in policy, nor in convention. We are going ahead.
On Tuesday, F&M leader Michael Pintard said the party is seeking legal action over the Davis administration's termination of some government employees and non-payment of certain contractors. It's an issue the party believes is politically motivated. Former F&M MP and attorney Don Saunders said the party's legal team is meeting with affected people and will take the matter to court if necessary.
What we do know is at the political level, for example, if you're a diplomat appointed by the Prime Minister, you got to resign once the new regime comes into play. That's what we've done, and I don't see any issue there either.
So besides that, there weren't any political terminations?
No political terminations, no political terminations, apart those at the political level.
In just a few weeks, public school students will return to classrooms as the Ministry of Education implements hybrid learning during the winter term. But with a new variant of concern rapidly spreading across the globe, many have questioned if it's a good idea. That question was put to Pan American Health Organization's Director of Health Emergencies Department, Dr. Ciro Ugarte.
Many countries are considering reopening schools. Let me begin with a position that not only WHO, but PAHO and many countries have adopted. The continuity of education for children, for their overall well-being, health, and safety should be at the forefront of all considerations and decisions.
Earlier this month, Minister of Education Gladys Hanna-Martin said that after months of virtual lessons, all public school students in the Bahamas will return for the next term in a hybrid setting, a combination of face-to-face and virtual learning.
There is a specific document that details how these measures can be implemented, considering the different local epidemiologic situation, but also what is the capacity of responding to increase of number of cases and taking into account, of course, also the emergence of variants.
While Dr. Ugarte noted that the continuity of education for children should be at the forefront of all considerations and decisions being made, he said the suppression of the spread of COVID needs to be paramount.
At situation level, when there is a community transmission with limited additional capacity to respond, childcare services and primary and secondary schools may remain open with adequate safety and surveillance measures in place as long as the local context allows. But in situations when there is an uncontrolled epidemic, that's in that case is the situational level 4, with limited or no additional health system response capacity, all individuals, including the fully vaccinated, partially vaccinated, and recovered individuals, should stay at home and limit physical contact with the people outside the household. That is the situation also, of course, for schools.
Though over $1.7 billion was pledged to help with recovery efforts after Hurricane Dorian battered Abaco and Grand Bahama 2 years ago, there are several donors who have still not lived up to their pledge, according to Press Secretary and Office of the Prime Minister Clinton Watson. He said the new board of the Disaster Reconstruction Authority is currently going over pledges.
We would remember we would have said previously that we were looking through these donations and pledges to see who has been made good on, who can't do it, who's still doing it. That assessment is going on. It's more aggressive now. The chairman is in place. The board is now in place at the DRA. And so they're working through looking and seeing who is committed and whether we received it, one category, whether they're still going to make good on it, 2 categories, and who can still be targeted for assistance. So they're still working through the process.
So to come on our news, are members of the Davis administration traveling too much? One minister weighs in. A social media brand popping up ahead of the holidays. And later, inside Bahamas Bowl 2021. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
The Foreign Affairs Minister is dismissing suggestions that members of the Davis administration have done a lot of traveling since taking office 3 months ago. Fred Mitchell called those claims rubbish.
I don't have any comment. I think that's just rubbish. Job is the job. And we follow the law. We're within budget, so there's no issue with any of those things.
Last month, Press Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Clinton Watson, said government will not disclose the cost of specific trips of cabinet ministers unless there is an abnormality. Since taking office, several cabinet ministers have traveled internationally on several occasions. Prime Minister Philip Davis on a delegation traveled to Scotland for COP26 before visiting London. Education Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin traveled to Paris, France, and Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper and the delegation recently returned from Switzerland. Additionally, Davis Mitchell and Ambassador to CARICOM Leslie Miller-Bright recently traveled to Barbados. We spoke with the Foreign Affairs Minister as he was leaving for Washington, D.C.
The public affairs of the country, generally. There's some meetings on Haiti that I'll be trying to see how the Bahamas can contribute to.
A social media brand is popping off of your timeline and into real life, bringing Bahamian food, culture, and experiences to a special Christmas market this Sunday. Christina Dragovich tells us more.
So Eyes of Bahamian Bay is a brand that started on Instagram and Facebook merely to promote Bahamian culture, specifically the Bahamian language. I feel like that's something that always gets overlooked.
Cachet Knowles is the founder and mastermind of Eyes of Bahamian Bay, an online hub for everything Bahamian. Knowles says the idea came to her in 2019, posting Bahamian dialect to her Instagram page. The response was overwhelming and led to the creation of t-shirts and other accessories showcasing Bahamian dialect and culture.
I post Bahamian history, culture, music, food, just anything to help us be empowered by our culture every day. I feel like we have moments in the year that we can be proud to be Bahamian, but it's never an everyday thing.
Now, Eyes of Bahamian Bay is going from IG to IRL with a Christmas pop-up market.
It's going to be other vendors alongside myself, Eyes of Bahamian Bay, selling merchandise, selling jewelry, stuff for pets, socks, candles, like anything you can think of, we will have. It's also going to be Christmas tree decorating, a photo booth, face painting. It's basically Eyes of Bahamian Bay's Instagram page in real life.
This Sunday, Ty's Place will be transformed into an interactive experience from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Tangs could be tangs, and you're drinking or you're thinking. So just a wide, array of different designs that I'm gonna have and continue having that are symbols of our Bahamian culture on wearable clothing. But I drew this. A lot of my designs this year are hand-drawn by me. So this is another shirt design that I had in my, vision for a while. Basically displaying on the shirt 6 dishes that we love as Bahamians, and they're all conch dishes. So
Knowles partnered with Tipsy to bring the pop-up to life for what she hopes will be just the beginning of immersive cultural experiences.
When people walk into the event, I want them to feel happiness and joy and proud to be Bahamian. Because that's really what Eyes of Bahamian Bay is trying to promote.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
When Our News comes back from the break, a local group calls for greater protection of children, and the Crisis Center offers hope for the holidays. We have the details when we come back.
Welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
Welcome back. A local advocacy group is calling on the government to do more to protect the nation's children, including fully implementing Marco's Law. Rise Bahamas founding member Turnille Burrows.
In 2013, the then government passed the bill for Marco's Law, and we're now seeing that we're having other instances of child abuse, child molestation, verbal abuse, neglect, and we don't think that we've been doing enough as a community, as a government, as a country to really protect and prevent violence against children.
Rise Bahamas has long been advocating for the full implementation of Marco's Law. The mandatory action rescuing children Operation Alert system was created after the brutal murder of 11-year-old Marco Archer in 2011. Officials recently tested the alert system on Alive's network.
If we can't protect our children, then that's saying something about us. We care about our tourists, we care about the bottom line, but at the end of the day, I would like to see a Bahamas which is known for the tourism factor, that children are safe here. Whether you're a resident, whether you're a visitor, it doesn't make a difference. Whether you're an immigrant, children will be safe in the Bahamas, if I have anything to do about it.
Christmas lights and decorations may brighten up the night during this season, but for some people, the holidays can be a lonely and dark time. The stress of gift shopping and perhaps marking the first Christmas without a loved one may be too much for some to bear. But Crisis Center Director Dr. Sandra Dean Patterson says the center is always willing and able to help.
We haven't been able to do all of the face-to-face intervention that we used to do, but we do a lot of telehealth and talking to people on the phone, and people need to know that we're always there, no matter what.
The pandemic has also prevented people from traveling, getting together, or celebrating like they usually would, an additional burden on a sometimes stressful time of year.
No matter what time it is, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, our volunteers are available to respond to whatever issue is confronting them.
So how can you manage some of the holiday stress? MayoClinic.com recommends acknowledging your feelings, reaching out if you need to talk to someone, and learn to say no to set healthy boundaries and protect your peace. It's a busy weekend for sports. That's coming up when our news returns.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining. Topping news tonight.
COVID-19 remains a serious threat.
Coronavirus COVID-19 has disrupted our economy, tourism industry, educational system, and put our healthcare facilities and professionals on high alert. Are you prepared? Do you have all the facts? Stay tuned to this network for the very latest news and information on this global pandemic.
The Bahamas Bowl making a triumphant return to New Providence as the bowl season gets underway. Marcellus Hall has that.
After a brief hiatus due to COVID-19, the Bahamas Bowl was back in grand fashion at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. The game taking place on Friday in front of a pretty moderate crowd. Nonetheless, the game turning out to be pretty exciting as it went back and forth between Mississippi State University and the University of Toledo. The two teams battled out right down to the very end, with Toledo making a late comeback to make this game competitive. They go on to win it by the final score, or rather Mississippi State goes on to win by the final score, 31-24. That ends up being the margin of victory there. Again, a triumphant return for the Bahamas Bowl. Looking forward to many more games in the future as the game continues to be televised worldwide and starting off the bowl season in the United States. Reporting for our sports, I'm Marcellus Hall.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Jared Higgs. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.